when people were walking out of speaking at Momentum Builder, I had this flashback to a moment probably about 10 years ago at Sales Mastery when Don and I were standing outside. We didn't ask you permission. We were just there with our cameraman and our microphone, and we're just interviewing everybody that came out. We were doing the same exact thing. And all of a sudden you come out and you look at us and, you're 6'4".
Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, 6'4" or whatever it is you are. And you're like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, interviews. And you're like, great, let's do one. And I'm like, oh my God.
So yeah, because usually that's like, nah, I can't do that, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell everybody what
let's rock and roll.
Yeah. We're like, we would just waste like $7,000 each because we consumed 6 minutes without. No, I'm kidding. But set us up. Whoever, Gino, Don, set us up. What are we doing today?
I'll go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing with Momentum Builder this year is to make sure that everybody stays engaged, to make sure that everybody's achieving their goals, to make sure that everybody's got accountability. At the end of the day, when we have an accountability partner, we all do a better job. And I think that that's the basis of what coaching is ideas, execution, and accountability. And so you presented to us, Todd, at the end of Momentum Builder, 3 14-day challenges, and they were all different in their own way. And what today is that follow-up and accountability to make sure, A, have you been doing it already? B, if you are doing it, what challenges are you encountering so that we can audible a little bit, make some adjustments, and succeed in the next few days that you have left. And I think that's pretty much what we're trying to achieve today. And then what I really love, Todd, is that you said, we want to make this interactive. We want this to be family oriented and very personal. And so as everybody raises their hands today, we're going to promote you so that you're part of the community, and then we'll just have a fireside chat.
Cool. So do you want me to do a quick recap on the 14?
100%.
The 14-day. Yeah. So let me, so enable my screen sharing, guys. I just got 3 slides I'll put up real quick to get everybody back in gear. Disabled participant screen sharing disabled.
I'm looking. Here we go.
Yay. Okay, let's do this, and then 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 let's do this. All right, so that was the conversation we had at Momentum Builders in Vegas. The day that I was speaking at the end was this idea of closing the gap. And what we built essentially was that there is a gap between where most people are and where they want to go, right? And so we did teaching, and then I presented a challenge. We did teaching, and I presented a challenge. We did teaching, and I presented a challenge. So the first challenge I presented was for 14 days, become super conscientious of where your time is going and what's unacceptable, and then determine 5 things you're going to that you're doing that don't produce top revenue, that you're going to remove or stop doing, whether you just don't need to do it at all, or whether you need to delegate it, or even if you need to compress it and time block it in unique ways. This is the challenge. And the challenge here is designed to give you more capacity, right? And so when we get uber focused on the things that matter most, that produce income, and we get defocused and unfocused perhaps on the things that we're doing to fill time, or the things that might be responses to not having confidence in making a call or anything like that, we end up kind of working hours that we don't actually produce revenue for. So that was number 1. Number 2 was meet with 10 referral partners and re-onboard them. And if you remember, the motive for this was that 96% of loan officers do not know what the top 3 needs are that their referral partners have. And they don't have a methodology on how to continue to meet with their partners week after week after week to generate mutually beneficial business development opportunities. And so we wanted you to download the High Trust Interview Playbook. We gave you a QR code to do that. And then we talked about just making a phone call, telling them you just come from this amazing 3-day conference. You realize that there were some things that you weren't doing in the relationship that you could do that would be super beneficial. You'd like to get together with them, have a conversation, and see where that takes the partnership. So that was the second 14-day challenge. And I asked you guys to meet with at least 10. The third 14-day challenge was call 5 buyers a day whom you've financed real estate for in the last 24 months, Okay. And for 14 days, do that. And the goal is to check in, ask a couple of good questions, determine a next action, and then, see what happens from that. And a lot of people scratch their head on that because, everybody we've funded loans for in the last 24 months has a 2.5% or 3% mortgage. So why are we going to call them? Well, you're going to call them because they are a salesperson for your team. If they told you they love the mortgage experience, if they told you that they have friends that are thinking about buying real estate, if they told you that they're going to be in this home for 3 years and now they're at 2 years, you should be calling them to check in with where they are in the 3 year. We should be talking about removal of MMI. We should be talking about, when's the last time you got your insurance rebid, any changes in your employment, any bonuses that you got, anything that might be off kilter with your kind of your equity plan and building that equity. I mean, all kinds of things, right? And so the goal then was to see if you couldn't get a qualified buyer referral every single week. So in 14 days, that would mean that you would have at least 2 loans from this endeavor, probably more than that. So that's the 14-day challenge. I'm going to stop sharing. And now what we want to do is we want to go into, this is going to be coaching. And I told Gina before we got going live here that no question that you can ask me is a question you shouldn't want to ask. I don't care if you think in your mind that it seems kind of elementary. Please don't be embarrassed by a question you want to ask. There's an opportunity right now to have 114 people benefit by your question and my coaching. And I think it's going to continue to build. So there's a couple ways we can do this. I think the way we'd prefer doing it is down below you see raise hand. And when you raise your hand, we will know the order in which hands are raised. And we're going to let you in to have a dialogue with us about your question. As soon as you are let in, then your hand's going to go down. We'll talk for 3, 4, 5 minutes, however long it takes. I am prepared to go anywhere. I don't have a preset agenda to add value to the tribe from Momentum Builders. So this would be the time that you want to start raising your hand. And then I'm going to let our team kind of tell me who's next, and we can bring them. I think we can bring them on and bring them on video live, right? Yep. If you don't want to be video live,
yes, we can.
Yeah. Who are you waving at, Jimmy? Me?
Bro, you know that I'm making some good social content right now. This is going to be put on my story. We're going to be taking everybody. And look, Don's doing it too.
All right, got it.
Yeah.
That's
embarrassing
awesome.
us, right?
So actually, I want to ask you a question, Todd, right away. So you talked a lot about.
Did you raise your hand?
Well, no, I didn't. I'm not in order. All right. Let somebody else.
Go ahead.
Well, okay. So you talk a lot about, and I think it's counterintuitive to what a lot of coaching programs teach. It's like, look, we got to call 40 realtors on a Monday. We got to, get as many people as we can in our funnel because people are going to fall off. But what happens is that you end up calling people that you freaking hate. And but okay, then don't call them. But you teach something much different. And it's, look, how about you go really, really deep with 10 people? And my question to you would be, how do you identify who those 10 are? And then how do you eliminate the crap?
Yeah. So it's a huge operating system philosophy. So let me just say to everybody, the first decision that every mortgage professional has to make, and you don't have to make it the first day you're in the business, but if you don't make it early on, you're going to spin your wheels and you're going to spend a lot of time doing a lot of things to try to generate business and revenue, and they're just not going to happen. So what is the decision? The decision is there's 2 ways to make money. One is to get loans, and the other is to build relationships. Now, that is the basic decision that has to be made. What is the operating system? Jimmy, to your point, the people that tell you to call 40 realtors on Monday, those coaching systems are not sustainable, because the minute you stop calling 40 people on Monday, your volume is going to go down. What I would rather say is, let's not call 40, let's call 4, but we got to find the right 4. Okay. And if we find the right 4 and we do that for a month, we now have 16 of the right 16. Now what I can do is I can formulate a business partnership strategy where I go deep with those people, and I'll unpack what deep means. I can do what the data is telling us loan officers don't do, which is having phone calls every single week to discuss mutually profitable business opportunity, scenarios. And that could be, what buyers are you meeting with? What buyers are you showing property to? Who have I not talked with? What listings are you going after in the next, 2 or 3 weeks? How can I help you cross-sell, the seller before you even get there? I mean, there's all these kinds of things that, like, if you know them, then you can help them. So if you don't know them, then you can't help them. So let's push pause there for a second. So what does deep mean? Right? Deep is, I know what drives you. I know what motivates you. I know why you want to be let's just use realtor. I know why you want to be a successful real estate agent. And because I know that, everything we do together is going to drive us to that conclusion. Like, if you tell me at the end of the day, you want to make money because you want to take care of your family, because you want to make a difference. At the end of the day, you want to make a difference. So everything we do together is going to help you make a difference, period. I'm going to use make a difference every time we talk. Now you and I are emotionally connected, right? But now let's ask a different question. So, like, I could say to Gino, hey, Gino, we're at our 12th week. Would you agree it's been a pretty good run? Gino says yes. I'm going to go, great. The 3 things you told me 90 days ago you wanted to achieve, we've checked all 3 of those boxes. In the next 90 days, what are the next set of things that we want to work on together? Now, we have in our masterclass event that we did last Thursday and Friday in Newport Beach, we had 40 professionals, $5,000 each. It was unbelievable, 5 stars across the board. Let me tell you what I did is I said, would you guys read these 2 pages? And then I'm going to ask you a question. So I made everybody read these 2 pages. And I said, how many of you have ever presented these 2 pages to your referral partners to determine the priority of what they need and the actual reason they need it? And I knew before I did that I wasn't going to get much play. And out of 40 people, I had 2 hands go up. Well, what was the 2 pages? The 2 pages was called the high trust gap analysis. And the gap analysis was, here's 20 things that successful realtors have to do. Many of them teams do, but there's 20 things. Now, go through the 2 pages. Tell me which 3 really resonate with you that you're not good at, but you need to be better at, that I could come alongside you and help you achieve. So now I have this menu, and every realtor is different. Every business partner is different from where they are to where they want to be, just like you are different from where you are and where you want to be, just like I'm different from where I am and where I want to be. I'm not unhappy. I'm very content, but I'm not done, right? So when somebody comes along and says, hey, listen, you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, you have this incredible brand, what's next for you? How can, as your business coach, how can I help you with the next 90 days of setting in motion the next 3 things that are going to continue to change the value of your brand in the world? So if I'm paying this person, $2,000 a month to coach me, and they give me an idea that's worth $2,000 an hour, okay, now what's next? And that's the kind of idea that we have here, Jimmy, the idea of we're not good at learning what people want. We're not good at learning their needs. We fear that we can't solve whatever they tell us they need. And then because of that fear, we lower our standards and call on people we probably don't want to call on, the 40 every Monday, right? To your point. And then we get discouraged because we hate the people we're calling on. And you put all of that together, and that's why most people work 40 years to do what they could do in 10 years. And I said at the event at Caesar's Palace, and I believe it in my heart, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Can I make one point on this? So watch this. I'm on a call yesterday with our top coaching group. It's called Elite. There's 29 people in the group, and I'm trying to get people to understand what the future of mortgage banking looks like. And the future of mortgage banking is creating an economic universe for your clients, whether they're borrowers and they need strategic help with fiscal decisions to pay down debt, manage debt, invest wisely, buy units, whatever the case might be. Economic universe. The other part of the economic universe is for my family. And the third part of the economic universe is for my referral partners. And so yesterday, one of the guys said, I'm number one in my company. I made $1.4 million last year. I closed $129 million in volume. And I suck at staying in touch with my database. And this is a guy that's number one, right? So I go, tell me about your database. And he goes, well, what do you want to know about? I go, how many people are in your quote database? He goes, 5,000. And I go, 5,000. So do you know what percentage of loans last year you got from the 5,000? And he said, no, but I don't think it's very many. And I said, so what do we teach you at Masterclass? And he goes, get more from less. I said, what was the whole 2 days about? The whole 2 days was about more from less. So what I said to him is I said, if we took the 80-20 rule and we applied it to the 5,000, what does more from less look like? And he said, more from less looks like there's 1,000 of those 5,000 that could really, really help me scale my business. I go, correct. So now if we have 1,000, we have 1,000, we don't even worry about the other 4,000. We could have a concierge, work with them and call them, but just let's go on the 1,000. I go, what's your average loan amount? And he said, $488,000. And I go, fantastic. So what does this mean? There's this silence. And I said, how much did you make on 129 million? And he told me his number. I said, so watch this. What if every one of the 1,000 was nurtured by 2 professional concierges, and out of those 1,000, you got 1,000 loans in a year? And he's scratching his head, because I think I told you guys in Vegas, I don't want you to leave the room not transformed. I don't want you to leave the room thinking that this is hard. I want you to leave the room like with your mind renewed. And so this guy's mind is renewed. And I go, what if that happened every year? And he's just dead silent. I said, let me tell you what's going to happen. That's $488 million in volume. That's $500 million in volume, and you're a loan rep. And I go, if we do the math real quick, you're leaving $5.8 million on the table by not going after those 1,000. Now watch what happens. Talk about going deep, go deep with 1,000. How many of those 1,000 are connected to a real estate agent partner? All of them are. And so then the question became, do you know what it's like? How much money would you make for your agents if you stayed in touch with those 1,000? So Jimmy, that's kind of the notion on what we want to do. I mean, going deep gives you referral velocity consistently. And if you understand the nature of referral velocity, it is only going to be achieved by going deep with your partners, going deep with your clients, and engaging the sales universe so that you can do in a decade what most people take 4 decades to do. And that's what's powerful about, the high trust methodology. I mean, I literally retired from doing loans when I was 33 years old. And then I started this company because I had a bigger dream and a bigger vision. And it was one loan at a time, but it was done really, really, really well. And then at scale. So that's the answer I have right now.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, Troy's been, we promoted Troy here a little while ago. Hopefully he didn't already answer your question.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah. I saw Troy hanging there, and I remember seeing Troy out there. So
yeah, but I took notes of what you said, Todd. That was amazing.
It was awesome. I was diving down deep in there because
I
had one question. I turned it into 2 now, but we'll start with the one. My biggest question was how to overcome the fear that you cannot actually fulfill that referral partners or partners' needs. And kind of case in point, I took your Simplify methodology over the past 14 days. To the highest degree that I could, so much that I actually had to fill out the 14-day form because I was in the zone. But it landed some really, really massive interviews and opportunities. One of them yesterday with a group of investors that purchase 50 to 100 properties a month.
Wow.
Literally had them sitting in my desk yesterday with the financial advisor I work with. So my biggest fear was I haven't followed up with them again today. And I gained a lot of confidence from Momentum Builder. But again, now it's this time where, okay, I got the big whale on the hook. I got the at bat. I'm in the batter's box. How do I not mess it up? And that's the fear.
So what did, so how many people are we talking about that you had this discussion with?
That was the one individual and the financial advisor, and they manage a group.
Okay. Okay. So during that time together, if they buy 50 to did you say 50 to 100 homes a month?
Yeah. So they sent me a list of 10 already to start on today.
Okay. So then where would the fear be? Is it a capacity issue? Because it certainly should not be a financing issue, right?
I don't think it's a fear of actually fulfilling and the loans. It's a fear of exceeding expectations to take it to the next level.
Okay. So, so the specific question is either A, how do I get beyond the fear of exceeding expectations, or B, how do I get beyond the fear of taking it to the next level? Did I hear that right?
Yeah. And I think to go one step with that to make it a little clearer is I have confidence. We talked about this, right?
Yeah.
But now I have this whale on the hook, and I'm a human being. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to mess it up, but he's a professional. So I know how to talk to him. I don't want to overdo it by every hour or two, I'm blowing him up. At the same time, I want to underdo it. So there is this fear of actually fulfilling his expectations and exceeding them, because it will open up, a tremendous amount of doors.
Yeah. So, so if the methodology is more from less, then this is a perfect scenario to dialogue about this. So, one question that I would have is, at some point in that dialogue, do you actually know, because they shared it with you, he shared it with you, what his top 3 expectations are for the relationship?
Yes.
So what are they?
One of them has to do with the financing structure.
Okay.
The second one is actual fee, like he's fee conscious because they do so much volume. So it's kind of that. And then the third one is loyalty, which I have no issues. But those were his 3 main, goals of this, was to locate and get together with a singular source, because they've been all over the country with, different banks and LOs. And my big financial advisor happened to introduce me to him because I was reaching out after Vegas to him, simplifying. And so that's where it came in. So it was very simple, but it was also very general, meaning like, hey, I'm going to kind of let you see my circle, and then you're going to earn your way into that circle. So if that makes any sense, he didn't divulge every detail.
No. I got it. I met with a guy yesterday that is speaking for, he's part of the Bigger Pockets kind of distribution, and he's actually doing rental property investment seminars. And he had the same question. He got 150 people in the first month regarding financing, right? And so here's what I would say. When you have a whale, you got to make sure that you clear the field and give it almost everything you got. Okay. And what I would recommend is, since you already have 10 potential qualification conversations, did I hear you right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what I would do is I would tell him and the financial planner, I want to measure at the end of every day how we have done together for the first month. And the reason I want to do this is because you want a loyal partnership. You want to be absolutely confident in the financing structure. Okay. And you want to make sure that you're evaluating this circle that you're entrusting to me. I don't think anybody would say, I don't have time for that. I would say if you want to do that and you feel that pretty soon they're going to go, like a week or 2 in, they're going to go, you know what, you're good. Let's just keep doing volume. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, let's just drop it from daily to weekly. Because I don't want to, I appreciate that you think I'm good. I don't want anything to go wrong as we scale. And once we get more and more people that we're talking to, we're going to have more and more pressure to perform. And my job is to build capacity before it becomes an issue. Your job is to have confidence that we can handle anything you throw our way. And depending on how big a whale is, you got to decide if the ultimate more from less is, I can make everything I need to make with one client like this. And then the only risk is, if for whatever reason that blows up, what then happens to your business? And as long as you keep people in the, in kind of the recruiting, partnership, aggregation modality, I would de-emphasize how much value you're giving other people right now. And I would look at this thing every day and I would just watch this. If this thing every day is going like this, and that could be like, yesterday we got 10, today we got 11, tomorrow if we get 12, because then you kind of know what's going to be happening. But don't have any, there should be zero fear about engaging with somebody like this and saying, how are we doing? Are we missing anything? Did you get any feedback from any of the people we talked to? I mean, I would look at somebody that did that with me and I would say, these guys are dialed in. They do not want to drop the ball. So that's the long answer to an even bigger question. And one of the things I learned very early, and I think this would make sense for you as you evaluate in the first week, and this applies to everybody here. We got 122 people that want to be their best, right? So from my vantage point, the thing that I think most loan professionals don't do, and I say professional because I think everybody wants to be professional, but if I got a whale, I'm going to ask myself immediately, in 2 weeks, where could this thing be? And do I have enough staff to handle it? Because the one thing that you want, everybody should understand this: build capacity in advance of demand as a strategy for creating demand. One of the early lessons I learned, 25 years old, I hired 3 assistants I could not afford. But the message was, if you don't have them, you won't go originate with confidence. And so I don't want people to watch their business slow down if they're utilizing these 14-day challenges because they don't have the right staffing or even the right staff. And my modality as a loan officer, and we did just shy of 6,000 loans in 12 years. My modality as a loan officer was, I'd rather be one body heavy than one body light.
Yeah.
And then that way I always had confidence. It's not a matter of how many people do I have on my team. Now it's just like, how do I fill the time that we're paying for, this way? And what people do if they don't have capacity confidence, they stop originating. And then they get pulled back into processing and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's helpful. But you're in a good spot.
I appreciate it.
I'd be
No,
jumping
you're in a
on
good
that.
spot. And
Yeah, Gino and I know what we want to touch on that because we learned through the capacity point, Todd. You're absolutely right. But one thing we also learned, I guarantee you've taught us this, is throwing bodies at it does not work unless you have a plan. You have to be very specific of what each player's doing, because we've seen a lot of people on our team just hire people and throw their work on them and not do their job, thinking it was all going to get done. When you're the sales professional, you're the hunter, you still have to go hunt. They're supposed to handle all the stuff you shouldn't be doing. That's what you taught me, but changed my career, Todd. Literally, remember I came to you and I was ready to quit because I ran out of hours. I was trading hours for dollars, everybody's heard. And you helped me go, well, then you're just doing it wrong. You need to find the right people, key, and they make sure that they're doing what they should be doing so that you can focus on what you personally should be doing as the originator. So I just want to preface, because we've had people do that. I'm just going to hire 2 or 3 people. They'll do all my work for me. Well, it doesn't work that way unless you have a specific plan. Am I right?
It's even, yes, you're right. And it's even more critical than that. One of the things we share with CEOs is it's called the deadly dozen. And it's the dozen hidden expenses of hiring the wrong people. And it's really revealing because we don't hire people specifically with the idea that there's one superpower I'm looking for. And I only want people I hire to have that superpower. So let's say it's client concierge. Okay. You've got to have people that love serving people. And that's a primary attitude. I can teach them what to do. I can teach them when to do it. I can teach how to do it. But I got to tell you something right now. I coach a guy that last year made $4.2 million. He hires everybody on his concierge team from Chick-fil-A. He literally, every single time they find somebody at Chick-fil-A that they have a beautiful customer experience with, he hands them his card from the drive-through lane and says, will you please call me? I have an opportunity for you. That's how he's recruiting people to build these platforms to serve. His database is now 25,000 people, and he's hiring from Chick-fil-A. And when people say, well, I've never had this happen before, he goes, yeah. And you know why? Because most people don't see the value that I just saw in you. So I know you make $15 an hour. Do you like $45 an hour? You know, and part that's going to be comp, but part of that's going to be comp and incentive. But you got to hire people that are uber gifted in the area you need somebody to be gifted in. And you don't have time for turnover. You don't have time for hiring the wrong people. You don't have time for keeping the wrong people. You got to get really, really good at understanding, here's what we need. Here's how we know the person can deliver it. And then, by the way, and this is a huge thing for me to say to most of you, but I need, for every person on my team, I need a daily, weekly, and monthly checklist. If I don't have role clarity driven by checklists, then I'm going to have a mess. And we're going to go from the ability to concentrate to chaos. So before we build staffing, we got to have role clarity. And people are not mind readers. You can't hire somebody like on Tuesday and expect them to be rocking and rolling by Friday. You know, you got to groom them. Maybe it's a 30-day onboarding. Maybe it's 30-day, let me blow wind under your wings and see how good you're doing. And then maybe it's another 30 days. Let's evaluate once a week. And by the end of 90 days of onboarding, that way you should be rocking and rolling. And the other thing I'll do is if I have a client concierge and you're new, I'm going to just sit you next to a current client concierge. The best way you're going to learn is watch what this person does, who's in the role that you just got hired to be in. And then after 30 days, I don't even have to be the guy or gal training you. You can sit next to somebody that I've already hired from Chick-fil-A that's making $75,000 a year now, and you can learn from her or him, whatever it is. And that's the capacity question. So Don, you're absolutely right. And the other thing that I hope to have presented to you guys with the first challenge is, how much money are you leaving on the table by not looking at your own superpower and doing things that do not produce top revenue? And in my mind, the filter would be, I mean, this guy that I did the $488 million in volume works in California. Average commission per loan is $9,000. And he's just sitting here scratching his head that I still am doing things I shouldn't be doing. And I'm $129 million in funded loans. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Backfill with the people that can make you look good and do everything else. But if my superpower is connecting with clients that want to buy, finance, invest, and sell real estate, then I want to do that 80% of the day. And if you get there, then you 4x your revenue, maybe 5x it. And then if you do that for the next 10 years, you can retire when you're 35, or if you're 55 right now, you can be done by 65. I had a guy that came up to me at the event, and he goes, I only got like 10 years. And I go, well, let's make them count. Let's make them count, right? The good news is you have a lot of experience. The bad news is you're going to give yourself 10 years, and that's fine. And I asked him, I said, how much do you need to feel safe? And he said, $4 million. And I said, build a business plan around having $4 million. That's all you need in the bank. And you can live off that, you know, off of the dividends and interest that comes from that. Good, let's get there. $4 million is not hard to make in 5 years, 10 years. It's pretty simple. Do you know, listen to this, you guys. Do you know if you increase your borrower conversion by 1% a month for a year, and you're at a minimum of 20%, so 20% of your borrower conversations, credit pull, triggered submission to processing, 20%, not 80, 20. Do you know that if you increase your conversion rate by 1% a month for 12 months, and you take 20% conversion, you know, maybe 25, but 19 is actually the industry average. So if I take 19, I add 12, I'm at 31. Do you know your monthly income will go up by $21,000 a month. So just think about that. Think about 10 years at an extra $21,000 a month by focusing on conversion and trust. Let's not get all distracted by all this other stuff. The thing that matters most is if you and I have a conversation, at the end of the conversation, you look at me and you say, let's go. I'm ready. I'm a borrower. I'm ready. 12%. You could increase your conversion rate by 12% in 2 months. And so give yourself a $20,000 a month raise. Get really good at few things. So that would be the superpower you need to hone as a loan officer. Conversion.
We're hyper focused on that right now, Todd, with our team.
Exactly.
We know that we're doing a great job of creating top of the funnel opportunities, but where are they going? The nurturing is lacking somewhere. The ability to close, the conversion is lacking. It really is. And some of that people will say, oh, it's market based. Well, where are you getting your leads? Or just what are your leads? What are you doing with them? How deep are you just trying to get the pre-approval done as fast as possible so that 6 other people can pre-approve the same person in the next 2 weeks? How are you making sure that you're making an impact in their life so that when they are ready to go, because right now we have an inventory shortage, that they think of you and only you and nobody else. And I think that's something that we've been struggling with to raise that conversion, because I think we do have, if we were to, there's 130 people on this call, I think if you really looked ourselves hard in the mirror, we probably have enough leads. We're just not converting enough of them.
So is that a question?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's really what we're focused on, because I think it's the problem. I think,
yeah.
Well, it is.
I need more leads. I need more leads. Well, you need more leads because you suck at conversion. If you fix conversion, you don't need more leads.
And you talked about going deep all the time, Todd. I mean, that's the difference.
So you talked a little bit about going deep with the realtor partner, and that gives us more top of the funnel. But how do you go deep with the consumer? Because one of the things we've done is, you get married to the consumer for this little short period of time, and then poof, they're gone and out of your life. And then maybe if you're a pretty damn good loan officer, you call them on their birthday, you call them for an annual review. That puts you leaps and bounds above everybody else almost.
I'm in the wrong room, Gino. I have my high trust selling book here.
Yeah, that's a problem, Don.
No, I've read it over and over. It's just I know. Library.
So let me answer this, and I'm just going to slow it way down because I need everybody to hear this in a way that transforms your life. Okay. The first thing I need you guys to do is change your language. And there's a massive difference between the word lead and the word referral. Okay. So what is the difference? Well, a lead is not a referral, even though they may buy real estate at some point in time. The reason why a lead is not a referral is because it doesn't have the backdraft to accelerate trust vis-a-vis the referral, right? So I'll give you an example. If I get a traditional lead and I'm calling, I'm already set up for low conversion. Why? Because leads shop, leads want to think about it, leads are price sensitive, leads are all that kind of stuff, which most of us don't want to play the game having those conversations. So what's the difference between a lead and a referral? Well, a referral comes to me because, and we'll just keep a real estate agent conversation. We can go anywhere. A financial planner. A real estate agent is going to say to a buyer, I'm super excited that I get the honor of helping you find your next piece of real estate. Before we get started, I would like to encourage you to have a conversation with my mortgage partner, Todd Duncan at ABC Financial. Before I engage with any buyers, go look for property, or make any offers, a conversation with him can help me help you get the best home for the best price, and even save you thousands of dollars in unnecessary expense through a concept called mortgage management. And if you have that conversation with Todd and you decide not to use him, that's your prerogative. But if you have that conversation with Todd and you decide to use him, then I think you have the best mortgage banker in town, in the city, whatever, right? So is that person now a lead or a referral? That person's a referral. So they're going to come to the conversation with a different expectation. They might start off with Yeah, so-and-so asked me to give you a call. We already work with another lender, but I really like this agent. I know we need to have a conversation with you. So that's why we're calling. And then I'm going to say, the reason you're having a conversation with me is because about 99% of consumers don't realize that there's a difference between rate, payment, and mortgage strategy. And you could talk to any lender, you could ask them what their rate is on any type of loan, and they'll probably tell you within the first 5 minutes. How we are different is I have a goal to integrate the mortgage that we ultimately recommend that you accept into your long and short-term financial goals, your investment goals, and even your payment and equity objectives. Make sense? And they're going to probably go like this, and they're going to probably go, now I know why this agent asked me to speak to Todd. And then I can drop the hammer and I can say, there's usually between 20 and 25 things that are really helpful for us to know as a lender to make sure whatever product that we recommend, you will qualify for, you'll be able to trust your approval, and you'll be able to close without any hassle whatsoever. But if I don't know those things, it's really hard to even come close to recommending something for you. So we're different. We have a 45-minute conversation with our borrowers. I'm happy to do that right now. Blah, 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 blah. And that was like, whoa. So that's super different. So then the job is, if we use the neuroscience of influence, the neuroscience of influence is to use a concept called embedded commands or pattern interrupts. Okay, so here's a pattern interrupt. Realtor to borrower. Spend 20 to 30 quality minutes with Todd. And whether you use him or not, you'll walk away from that experience with a whole bunch of knowledge that'll help me help you get the best home for the best price. So the pattern interrupt is whether you use him or not. Now, if I want to use a pattern interrupt with a borrower, I can say, I've done over 4,000 loans, and I have never had a borrower that has asked me for a high interest rate. But what I have experienced is borrowers all have motivations for why rate and payment are important to them. And I'd love to have that conversation with you, because whether you know it or not, I'm helping you create perhaps the largest debt in your life. And unlike most lenders, I have a professional responsibility to help you manage that debt. So that's how we're different. And you start, Gino, using verbiage like this, and you start using, like if you guys haven't downloaded our Talk Less, Sell More PDF, just go to toddduncan.com, go to free resources and click on this and download it. It's a 19-page white paper. It tells you exactly how to do what Gino just said most don't do. First of all, let's move from lead to referral. And then second of all, let's change the dialogue. Because if there's 6 different question categories that can change the dialogue, I showed you the graph at Caesars on talking yourself out of the deal. If there's 6 different question categories, everybody's got a category that's right for them. A first-time home buyer should always be asked a question that's based on the knowledge that you have that they're in fear. Every first-time home buyer has fear. So let's deal with that head on, okay? If a real estate agent is wanting to scale, the question is a present day question, like based on where you're at right now and where you want to be at the end of 2023, what are 3 to 4 of the most important things that we work on together for the next 10 months? See, that question equips you in ways that you're not even equipped. Now, let's get back to referrals. So I want you to understand the math. I followed this math as a loan officer. So the math I'm about to give you is 4 decades old. How many partners do you need? Okay, so that's question number 1. Question number 2 is, what's the commitment on referral velocity? In other words, together, how much business are we going to generate for conversation per week? And then it's up to me as the mortgage professional to achieve a level of sales conversational productivity that is at a level we call mastery, which is like to be the pro, to be the pro, to be the pro. And there might be 10 pros or 20 pros or 30 pros in your city. But if you're not the pro, then you can't literally wipe out the competition. Because here's what a pro says. 95% of loan officers, 95% of lenders are happy to quote you a rate, probably send you a fee sheet, and recommend a mortgage. But the question is, did they give you a 5-year plan on how to manage that mortgage? And most will say, what? That's how we're different. I'm going to do business with you, hopefully for the rest of your home ownership life. Hopefully for the rest of your home ownership life. And what I'll do that's different than everybody is I will talk to you every single year about your mortgage. Is it efficient? Is it working for you? What are some of the goals you have in real estate coming up next? What are some of the challenges you're facing, maybe with your family, maybe size of property, maybe, revenue, maybe you're falling off of your retirement goal, and what do we need to do there? And blah, 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 blah. So if I embed the command, I'm going to do business with you for the rest of your home ownership life, and I hope to earn that right today. That's an embedded command. Now I have the obligation to follow up. And that's what that guy that's leaving $488 million on the table isn't doing. He's not following up. And follow-up is the simplest idea to tell you, but it's the hardest to get into arithmetic discipline on. To your point, Gino, that it's great that you can call and say happy birthday. It's great you can do an annual review. What do you do in the 4 weeks before they start looking for property? What do you do to create a conversation then that gets them ready to go in 4 weeks and not have it be about rate? Okay, how about this question? Ready? So somebody wants to push and talk about rate. Come on, man. What do you guys charge on 30-year fixed rate loan? Well, my response could be there's 5 or 6 or 7 different answers to that question. But before we talk about that, what are you trying to achieve through home ownership and your mortgage over the next 5 to 10 years? And they're going to scratch their head and they're going, what does that mean? No, but seriously, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to accomplish? So the phrase I want you to write down for every borrower is, I'm happy to talk about that. I'd like to recommend 2 to 3 mortgage strategies. But before we talk about rate and fees, help me understand. And what you do right there is you own that conversation. You've now converted that person around because you're not going to do what every other lender is doing. Now I have the right and the obligation to stay in touch with you. I have the right to deliver between the time that you go into a contract and the time that that loan is successfully recorded. I have the obligation to make sure you're thrilled with what we're doing together, and the obligation to make sure that every time that we ask you how we're doing, you go 5 stars. I have that obligation. And then watch this. And this is Moneyball right here. Then I'm going to follow up with you 7 days post-closing, 30 days post-closing, 180 days post-closing, and then the first year. So I have all of those conversations teed up. And if you do that, then the database becomes a data bank. And until you do that, it's one and done, Gino, to your point. Yeah. So hopefully that rabbit hole we just went down is, that's the economic boondog. It is gold.
That's gold. And it's beautiful that we have Michael here. Yeah, no, it's
good. I have 3 pages of notes here, Todd, and I've heard you speak for 25, 28 years, and you never cease to give me so much ammunition. If any has, the hard thing about everybody on this call, admit it, put it in the chat, and admit it that when you're challenged, you think it's a challenge. It's hard to do this. And then you listen to Todd, you're like, I have no excuses. None. Literally no excuses at all of how to not convert more and how to not have scripting and confidence and knowledge and everything that you need. I'm like, oh my gosh, how's Gino and I not relay this to our team to just crush everybody and be confident about every conversation they have?
Well, let me put a final.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Gino. I want to put a cherry on top of this, and then I know Michael Penny's been waiting forever. Here's the cherry on top. Listen to this, and I want you to do the math right now. So we go back from lead to referral, right? So watch the business plan. I have 10 referral partners, 10. Okay. They're a good 10. They're not fringe players, right? What's the best way to find out who those 10 are? Somebody who knows them. For me, that was a title partner. So the reason why I didn't have a lot of agent fallout is because I had a title partner who told me more than not who not to do business with. Okay. And so when I would call Ron and I would say, hey, I'm thinking about calling Brenda Pallison at Carlisle Realty. You go, no, don't. She will slay you. You will give up your life for this. She's out of control. Okay, well, I'm not calling Brenda. But if all of a sudden, I call Ron and I say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about calling Solon Shaw at Century 21. What do you know about Solon? And Ron goes, you guys would be a perfect fit. He's a rock star. I do title business with him, and use my name, give him a call and set up an appointment. Okay. So that's how I get rid of all the people, and there's more of them, right, that I need to say no to. So the key to your life in terms of relationship productivity is, who do you select? And in order to be able to select the right people, you have to deselect the wrong people. Okay. And the best way to do that is, who knows who I need to know? Now, watch this. So let's say I get 10 rock stars. That doesn't mean they're in the top, 10% of agents, but they're just like, they're good, they're professional, they have ethical and moral values, they want to do the right thing, they want to create value. So we end up in this relationship. So when we end up having a conversation about doing business together and they're ready to go, and we ask them if they're ready to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's spend the next 12 weeks together to make sure our relationship gets off the right start. And they're going to go, what? Because, and then I'm going to say, I know that sounds foreign, because most loan officers don't care. All they want is your business. I want you to succeed. I want you to succeed at whatever level you want to. The business and referrals will take care of itself. And they go, wow. And so I get my phone out and I go, here's what we're going to do. Fridays, Friday afternoon, Thursdays, Thursday afternoon. What day works best for you? I want to talk to you every single week for 15 minutes. And I just want to talk about 3 questions. Okay. And they go, well, how about Thursday too? And I look up Thursday too. And then right. And then I send them a meeting invite that's going to be 12 weeks long, weekly recurring, right? For 15, 20 minutes. Now they accept that. What do I actually have built in now? I have follow-up built in. And so now I'm going to get reminded 24 hours before Thursday that, that Solon and I are going to meet. So when we talk on the phone for the first month or so, we'll start to go live maybe in month 2 and have some deeper conversations. But I can ask this question. I can say, Solon, what buyers have you met in the last 7 days that I haven't had a conversation with, that if I did, we'd be able to make sure we put them in a maximum purchase strategy? And if Solon says there's 3 guys I've talked to, give these 3 guys a call and let's see where we go from there. Okay. So here's the second question. Who are you showing property to in the next 7 days that I haven't had a conversation with? That if we did that, we'd be able to help you with the power of your offer by putting this person in an almost cash position. And let's say there's another 4 names. All we're looking for, you guys, is 2 conversations a week times 10 is 20 conversations a week. So now watch, and this is where I want you to do the math. So if I'm going to work on 20 conversations a week with borrowers, let's put a half an hour to each borrower. Okay. So that's 10 hours of meeting with borrowers a week. If you don't have time to do that right now, you either need to pave the time or you need to get staff so you can get back to this. Here's why. So if out of the 20, which is 4 a day, I have a conversion rate to a triggered submission to processing of 1, that's 25%. 3 automatically go into top of funnel. And I have to nurture them. I don't know if they're going to be buying in 6 months, maybe a year, maybe it's more quickly than that, but whatever it is, the 3 are there. Let's just focus on the 1. So that's 5 a week, right? So if I have 20 triggered submissions to processing and I have a 90% closing pull through, then every 20 that goes into processing, I'm funding 18. Okay. So if I choose to work a 10-month work year, I'm funding at 1 out of 4, 180 units. Okay. Now watch what happens. You never have to mess with the 10. You might upgrade them throughout time, but you never have to mess with them because the only job now is to keep the number of consultations at 20 a week, but do a better job in your conversion conversation and take the 25% to 50. You still have 4 people to talk to. You don't need to double that to 8. Keep it at 4 and get 2 out of 4 to say yes. You're now at 360 fundings. You don't have to change the 10. Just get better at conversion. Have somebody on your team that is in charge of follow-up and nurturing before contract, and then put a concierge in place to take them, through the process. And for the next 25 years, put that in place. But watch this. If I make sure the people referring buyers to me do it at Olympic level, like almost die on the hill to say, I don't care what lender right now, you need to talk to Todd. You don't have to use them, but you need to talk to them, because my pull through and what I do for my consumers, I've had a lot of train wrecks with lenders that the consumer knows. And at the very best, I need a second opinion. And at the very most, I'd like to ensure my commission. But at the end of the day, so those are all language things, right? But watch this. So if I have a better referral on the front end and I do a better job with the consumer, and now I convert 3 out of 4, which is what Elite does. Elite converts 75 out of every 100 buyer conversations to a true triggered loan, and 96% of them fund. So now the 360 goes, if my math is right, to 480. So do the math real quick. Take 180 times it by how much you make per loan. And if we pull that up, and I just do it here for us, I do 180, and let me just use $5,000 a loan. That's 900 grand. So if I get to 360, that's 1.8 million. And if I get to 480 times 5,000, I'm at $2.4 million. So here's the conversation. You can make $2.4 million with 3 out of 4 people saying yes, and 90% of your loans funding. You never have to have more than 10 partners. That's a masterclass on business planning.
Not much more to say about that.
I know, that's my drop.
Stick a fork in that. It's
yeah,
done.
Totally. But Michael, you've been waiting patiently. The reason,
yes, Michael, sorry.
No, it's good.
No, I'm not sorry at all.
No, you shouldn't be. I'm not.
Stuff.
I got another 2-page of notes. Thanks, Mike.
So Michael's not new to business, and he's not new to relationships, and he's not new to sales, but he is new to retail loan officer, right? That's not a seat that you've been wearing for a long time, Michael. Yeah. And so I think you have the unique opportunity to listen to Todd and do all the things young in your career that we're learning to do or relearning to do older in our careers. And I can't tell you over the last few days how many conversations we've had about these types of things after Momentum Builders. So I wanted to know what Momentum Builder meant to you, what Todd's coaching meant to you over the last few days, and where do you stand today? Like, what's next? Like we asked earlier.
Sure. I appreciate you having me on. And Todd, and I've been part of one of your events. I've sponsored it once before in San Diego. And one of the things that I've always gone towards is go fast, go forward. What's the other one? But the 3 F's, move fast, forward, and
fit, fast, forward.
Fit, fast, forward. I remember that.
Fit first. You can't go fast if you're not fit.
Fit, fast, forward.
And you can't go forward fast if you don't know the plan.
Absolutely.
Fit, fast, forward.
So, over the years, I've had the opportunity to build relationships, build trust. And now that I've gone into this, being on the front lines, so to speak, I'm now having these individuals that I've built that trust with for that amount of time that are giving me all their business, which is fantastic. And for me, it's and Don, Gino have all known is like I wanted to put myself and kind of throw myself to the wolves, so to speak. But now I'm in a situation where, I have 54 loans in escrow right now and 16 million in just the last 30 days. So I want to know, I'm starting to break my systems, and you're talking about all these opportunities to continue with the database and those types of things and build relationships and through past experiences, but I just don't know the right systems or the processes to take on. Currently I use Arrive, which is great.
So the specific question, Michael, would be if I have breakage,
yes,
what do I do? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I'm building this trust, but the reality is that the amount of loans that I'm expecting to take on as momentum picks up, I'm gonna end up breaking something, and I don't want it to be myself, you know?
Yeah. So let me say a couple things. First of all, you know, Gino or Don, if you remind me, I think what I could probably do for everybody that joined the call today, nobody else that came to Momentum, but just the people that came on the call today. Let me strip out the 4 pages from the High Trust Sales Academy, which is a 400-page playbook. Let me strip out the 4 pages on the 4 assistants that high-performing mortgage professionals need. And before anybody says, well, and Michael might say at 54, I need more than 4. You probably do, but how many of those positions can be doubled or tripled? Like at 54 loans, my highest funding month as a loan officer was 116 fundings in a month. And I had 3 full-time transaction coordinators. Okay. And so we broke the pipe into 3 even groups. So, you know, number 1, number 2, number 3. And then when we got loan 4, it went back. And then, you know, loan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 went back. And so and a transaction coordinator was a processor that wanted to be more consumer facing. Okay. So they had knowledge, they had education, and they could literally take the loan from the time I'm done with a 15-minute consultation with the borrower, and they took it from there through lock to closing. Okay. So that position is a strong position, and you won't have as much breakage in processing or even funding. And you certainly won't have end of month issues when you have people managing the transactional elements of the loan. It's probably the best position you could ever have outside of a client concierge post closing. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing I would do is I'd get to a point where you then begin to ask, do I need a production partner? A production partner could be a licensed junior LO. It could be a licensed LOA, depending on whether or not you need that or you need something else. But a production partner is somebody that can not only self-gen, but they can also help you with volume overload. And
I was thinking about bringing on somebody to handle me, assist me with my business to business or business development.
Yeah. So then the third position is a strategic partner liaison, right? So a strategic partner liaison is a B2B opportunity. I'll give you an example. My strategic partner liaison was a top realtor that wanted to get on the lending side. It was one of the best moves I ever made because she understood real estate, she understood lending, and she knew everybody that was a B2B opportunity, right? So I had her probably in year 4. I started with my title partner in year 1, but then I had both of them interfacing, interacting, you know, asking the weekly questions, giving status updates, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And so that's the third position in the 4 pages that I would strip out and give to you guys. And then the 4th position is the client concierge. And if you look at all those positions and you have 54 loans a month and you're afraid of breakage, one of those positions is where the breakage is occurring. And so you just have to do a list, Michael, on where's the breakage. And it's interesting, you guys, because you don't know where you have breakage until volume breaks it. And, you know, there was a show on a couple of years ago that was called Restaurant Wars. And it was restaurants competing for not only the best cuisine and the best menu, but when they went through the launching of the restaurant, the goal was within 12 weeks, you're going to have every table filled with 1 reservation. So if you have a restaurant that holds 50 people, instead of some coming in at 5, some coming in at 6, some coming in at 7, everybody comes in at 6. All tables are seated at the same time. And now it's like, where's the breakage? And it was really interesting because nobody had a lot of breakage leading up to like full capacity. But as soon as it was full capacity, I mean, stuff was falling left and right. So to Michael's point, the great question for all of you to ask is, where do you need more operational peace of mind? Where do you need more operational support to generate higher consumer scores in the borrower experience? And where would operational bench strength give you more personal freedom? Either A, to not work as hard as you're working, or B, to be able to then get back to what your superpower is, which would be talking to borrowers. And the fact that you have 54 loans in process, right now, I mean, that could go to 100, 200. It's just a matter of how big's your bench going to be? How big's
Yeah.
your bench going to be?
Well, to go back to your restaurant term, I put myself in the weeds so I can actually know where the breakage is, and that's the whole intent around it. And what I'm finding is that there are a lot of pieces that need to have automation that aren't existing at this point. And I come from a technology background, so I'm like seeing the opportunity, not necessarily like it's a problem, but I see opportunity in the situation. Additionally, milestones and those types of things and points of communication or opportunity missed. That those are things that I'm taking note of just so I know how to train to it. And if I don't break myself on it, it's going to be hard for me to train to it. So, or create those accountability.
But the other thing to look at is like operational empowerment. Like you can go there, but the executive chef is not going to walk around and see the consumer experience. They might come out every once in a while and introduce themselves and ask that, but it's the team that serves, right? So I think one of the biggest empowerment moves is to have a conversation with your team, guys. Where's the breakage right now? Because you can only find out so much. But if they have breakage and they're covering it up and handling it appropriately, and you don't know it's breakage, it's still breakage.
Mm-hmm.
So get the team, have an initiative for 60 days on discovering breakage and improvement. And I would ask you guys to really consider the power of role clarity with your team. 100% where most of the pitfalls are is people don't have role clarity.
Yeah, I think it's a unique market right now, Michael, that you're growing in, because a lot of us experience growth when everybody's growing at the same time. One of the opportunities you have once you standardize your systems and once you reach peak efficiency is that you've got some of the most talented mortgage people in the world sitting on the sidelines without a job right now, or sitting at another place underemployed and not happy. This is the best time in history to grow a mortgage practice.
And let me say this, there's a lot of loan officers that are proving to themselves in this market, but maybe even in they're not being aligned the right way. There's a lot of loan officers that would rather be on a winning team than flying solo trying to build their own thing. Not the bottom 50%, unless you got somebody who's an up and comer. But if you take the top 20% of originators and you look at the next 30, half of that 30 would rather be on a team versus flying solo.
Okay.
And that's how we built our team.
Yeah.
Right, Gino?
Yeah.
Did the same thing.
Yeah.
So I will caution, though, sometimes a tremendous amount of skill in the players leads to a lack of disciplines in the roles. So we've suffered that before, right? We got super talented people. So you're like, I don't need to micromanage them. They know what to do. Then, like what Todd said, then you got all the tables seated at the same time. Shit breaks.
Mm-hmm. Todd, how can they get more from Mr. Todd? I mean, obviously your resources there's a plethora of them. It's changed our career, our lives, our team's lives, and all that. I mean, we can't thank you enough for one, giving up your time, which is worth a lot. You've taught us all the value of time. I have my hourly wage always. We always ask our LOs, what's your hourly wage? When they said they went to lunch, how much did that cost? They said $30. I'm like, nope, it costs you $450 to go to lunch. Remember, might want to rethink that depending on who you went to lunch with.
Or $5,000.
Right, depending on your level. Absolutely. I mean, I know our hourly wages thankfully changed thanks to great advice like yours. So how can they find out more, Todd? Because our goal with Momentum Builder is not self-serving. It's to give them the opportunities that you gave us so that they have these shortcuts and the coaching opportunities and the tools and motivation, everything needed so they can be successful and enjoy their career, not just kick butt and make money, but enjoy it. And that's otherwise you're going to get burned out and you're not going to maintain that kind of focus. So how can they find out more?
Well, the one thing I just kind of alluded to is go ahead and and come onto our website at toddduncan.com and download two things. If you didn't download the High Trust guide, download that, and then download the Talk Less, Sell More white paper. And that to me is where we start with everybody. And then I think the second thing I would say is if you really like what we're talking about and you really want to go there, then just come to the website, and this is the page. This is our coaching page. How much are you worth? And our job is to get you lined up and have you take a look at our brochure, and then take a look at the coaching offerings. And then get to a point where you go, you know what, schedule my free coaching consultation. I click right there, schedule the free coaching consultation, and just give us your name and your email. There's nothing, there's no strings attached. If we can have a conversation with you and we can show you how to make an extra $10,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 a month by working less hours, who would not sign up for that? So just come to toddduncan.com, download those two documents because they're free, and then let us hang out with you for 30 minutes and see if there's a better way for you to do business and life. I wake up every day right now, and the question is like, who's next? And I told somebody yesterday, they go, how's your health? And I go, my health is great. And it was interesting because Deb and I were talking last night. And we always have pillow talk, and pillow talk is like kind of reviewing the day. And she said, you have this massive smile on your face tonight. And she goes, how come? And I said, sweetheart, today, 76 people texted me that I changed their life. And I go, what's there not to be like happy about? And you guys all have that opportunity. You are in the life-changing business. You just get to do it around finance and debt. And, I don't know when my last speech will be, but I don't plan on ever stopping. And what drives me is like, who's next? Right? Who is next? And it should be you. Why not you? Why not now?
Good point, Todd. And thank you, Todd, for your time, for your friendship. Thanks for the cool gift, by the way. Todd walks the walk, by the way. We were blessed to have Todd at Momentum Builder, and both an unplugged lunch session and closing, which kept hundreds of people in the seats. Thank you, Todd. It's hard to do that at Vegas. And and on top of it, then he sends this really cool thank you gift, which we're Todd's the one we're thanking, and this cool NFT, cool gift that he made into an NFT that has quotes that rotate on this electrical digital board with a personalized note. And the reason I mentioned that is because Todd walks the walk. It's about building real relationships. It's about going deep. And Gina and I can't thank you more than your friendship over, Todd. You and I know each other for, 25, 30 years now. So thank you for enlightening. And we are so excited to have you part of our lives and Momentum Builder community. And we have two more events coming up here. So we're going to do this weekly with the best of the best. And that's why we wanted to start off with Todd, because that's where we're going. We're only bringing on the best that give you true value, that are givers in our industry and changing lives. So put this on your calendars and make sure you sign up for the Momentum Builder app. It's going to change your life with great professionals like Todd. So download the app and we'll keep communicating with you all year long, because that's what we all need. And with that being said, Todd, thank you.